Hello, hello, hello. I'm just letting everybody in. Bear with me. Admit, admit, I'm letting you in. Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Patti.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm going to close this part. We're in my car today. Live from Widget's car. You got to do what you got to do sometimes, you know? All right, everybody. I hope everybody's doing good. I'm just letting everybody get on. My brain is hyper focused in one of our members' problems today. So bear with me as I try to step away from that problem. We may even readdress it as our conversation goes on today because she does have a handful. And I don't know if she wants to talk about it on here. So I will wait, stay quiet. We'll see if she brings it up. If so, we can talk about it. I do know there's some other people on here that have questions, so I want to answer them. And forgive me for being like this up on the camera today, but like I said, I'm in the car. And I'm not driving, okay? I promise. We are not moving. If we start moving, it's because we needed to get out of here. So, I don't know. All right. Anybody have any questions that I could start with? Nothing crazy? Nothing crazy yet?
Patti, have you heard anything about if 1157 has been heard yet today? We had any?
I don't know. I don't know that if it's been heard yet today.
Well, I know it was supposed to be heard today because I've been calling all week. So I just
Yeah.
don't know if you had heard it, if it had been heard or what the status was. Just curious.
I don't know at this point. I can already tell you this is going to get nasty.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Is it 57 or 67? Because I keep transposing the numbers.
57, 1157.
Okay, the 50s. I got to put something together with like a sock hop or some jeans from the 50s in my brain so that it sticks that way. 1957. It's 1157 though. What we're talking about, you guys, is check this out. Let me tell you what happened, okay? You guys remember January 1st, 2020, the state of California enacted statewide rent control. It was Assembly Bill 1482. We all know it because we're very familiar with it by now. But what that did is it puts rent control on residential dwellings statewide, meaning the entire state of California. But they had exemptions for single family homeowners, depending on how you held title, by how many units were on a tax bill. Lots of variables that were going on there. We've all figured that out. We now call it the TPA, or the Tenant Protection Act. It has a cap rate currently of 10%, or never to exceed 10%. What Assembly Bill 1157 is trying to do is it is trying to say, no, we changed our mind. We want to put that cap rate never to exceed 5%, meaning the CPI, whatever it is, plus 2%, never to exceed 5%. Wait a minute. Are you telling me that if the CPI is 1%, that the maximum rent increase we're going to be able to do is 3% across the state? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Paying attention? Because the way they judge the CPI is based on the consumer price index. So what that has to do with is the rate that people are spending money. Okay? Right now, people are spending money like crazy. We all know we're doing it too because the price of everything has gone up so high. Everything. Okay? With that being said, when there's an adjustment or the market crashes or whatever it is that you want to call what's going to happen, what will happen is the same thing that happened to us in 2006, 2007, where all of a sudden real estate had no value. People in the industry were scrambling to find places to live because they were losing their own investments to foreclosure. People were struggling to find jobs. A lot of families were commuting together. Homeowners were now having to go become tenants because they lost their own investments. It was a market adjustment, a real estate crash, call it whatever you want. The economy went caca. Okay. With that being said, we're looking at those signs and symptoms on the wall. So if the economy goes down and the CPI, the rate at which consumers spend money, is down to 1%, what that means for all of us is we're only going to be able to do 2% plus the CPI, never to exceed 3%. So it would never go over 5%. And if the economy's down, that means we have a lower amount that we can raise our rents to. The biggest thing, and what everybody needs to hear here, is this: there will be no more exemptions. No more single family exemptions, no more how you hold title exemptions. They're trying to eliminate that, meaning this would hit every single family home, every residential dwelling within the state. That includes marinas, it includes boat marinas. Hold on, because there's some trailer parks, mobile home parks, all residential dwellings. Wow. The whole state of California, no exemptions. I'm going to let you chat, Chris, because I know you got a lot to say about this too. We all do. We think that this is, oh, there is a link to California's form letter so that you can write letters to the powers that be. Oh, awesome. The powers that be. Chris is trying to give us information, you guys. He's giving
Yeah,
you the
it's actually you
Go
don't
ahead.
even have to write it. They have CAA, which I guess is what, the California Apartment Association. Am I getting it right?
Correct. They cover the state of California.
Well, Sasha, the Struthers, I think, right? You're the what do you call it? The buyout agreement? No, cash for keys
attorney.
agreement attorney. In her like weekly update or whatever, had this link, which I think I already got from CAA, but it was helpful to have it again. That takes you to CAA's own kind of like policy advocacy page that's just for this 11 what is it, 1157.
Remember, it's in the 50s, sock hopping. I gotta retrain my brain.
So it already has like language that's like form language, which is pretty good. Doesn't seem to let you change it, but I suppose you could always copy and paste it if you wanted to on your own. But it will look up by either your property address or your home address, your state legislator, and send them a message that's basically, as a rental property owner, I'm against this bill.
I get you. So basically,
So it's as easy as can be. I mean,
they made it point and click, print and send, right?
pretty much like put your name, email, and address or something like that, and send, pretty much. Yeah.
Hey,
So
I'm all about it.
Doesn't get any easier.
You put the link in the chat for us so we can all
That should
utilize
be it.
that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let me see if it
you.
still works.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. We appreciate it. We can all pull together. All right. Anybody else have anything?
Patty, I have a question off different topic. I know hotels don't fall under like landlord-tenant law, but wait, they don't, right? Or do they? I don't know, based on your reaction.
Wait, you can read my face? Let me ask you a question.
I thought they don't fall under.
Why would a hotel not fall under landlord-tenant law? Let's talk about this. And Chris, you be quiet.
I thought they don't. They don't fall under.
Because of innkeeper law?
Well, I don't know what innkeeper law is, but I just thought that they don't fall
okay.
under.
Let me explain. Okay. Hotels, motels, Holiday Inn. No, that's an old song. Okay. I have to be a goofball sometimes, you guys. It's that squirrely brain of mine. Innkeeper law. Okay. If you go stay at a hotel and you get drunk, and I'm just talking out loud, okay? I'm not insinuating anything. And you don't get out by checkout time, and they come and say, you got to leave. You didn't pay for this. You're staying over. And you're like, screw you. I'm still hungover. I'm not leaving. What are they going to do?
Call the police and
Bingo. They're going to call the cops and use innkeeper law and say you're trespassing and have you ejected off the premises. But they can't do that if you stay there more than a certain amount of consecutive days.
so what's that number?
Well, listen to me and hear me out, okay? You know, when you go to a hotel, it says you cannot stay in this room for more than 14 consecutive days. Same thing at a campground, right? They add an additional 7 days for staff to do something about it. Your number, I believe, is 28. And you want to stay as far under that as you possibly can.
So if you are over, because like, you know, Residence Inn, like they have like, you know, full on kitchen, all of that, to where you could reside there. So if you're at 30 days or whatever, so
You're
does that
now
fall under?
landlord-tenant law.
Oh, okay. I didn't
No
know if you,
longer innkeeper law. The
oh,
consecutive days is what defines that innkeeper versus landlord-tenant.
okay, got it. Thank you.
A lot of people that started out doing Airbnbs thought it would be great just to do their Airbnb because they could use innkeeper law. What they didn't realize, but we rented it under Airbnb. It doesn't matter. Once they stay there over a certain amount of time, they become a resident. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Does that all make sense? So
Yes.
hotels and motels do evictions. They do them often, just so you know.
Good to know.
No worries. And if you have anything else, let me know. I'm going to read some questions. And yes, David, you're correct. It's less than 30 days. It's less than 28 days, I believe. And some jurisdictions changed by county. They can have something different. It could be 21 days, I believe. That's why campgrounds and most hotels have a sign you can't stay more than 14 consecutive days. If you need to stay there more than that, they'll actually have you move campsites or move to a different room. That's why they do that. Val, we were about to choose a potential renter. It's a 3-bed and there's 3 adults. One, the mother, who is handicapped. The door to the bathroom is 30 inches. Her wheelchair doesn't fit. The son says no problem. He will take her. Ugh. They are expecting to choose them. However, this morning we just had a referral from someone we know and may choose them instead. What kind words would you use to let? I don't like that word, Val. Somebody is trying to call me. I know it's none of you. I know it's none of you trying to call me. I don't like the word hand. I get what you're asking me, Val. Hang on. And you're I I call it handy capable just because I'm a chairman of something. My friend is here. I'm like, she's here, she's here. I don't have to sit in the car. But you guys just wait a second, okay? Hang on. Let's wind me back in because that tapping on my window is a good way to get a barrel pointed at you. Did you see me turn quick? Oh, give me a second. You you always hear about these things. They were live and this happened. That almost happened just now. Okay. I'm okay. Somebody reel me back in. And if you ever see Patti sitting in a car, don't come tap on the window. I hope I didn't scare the crap out of her. Oh, that was funny. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, April. Thank you. It did. It's startling to me. Oh, I'm okay now. What were we speaking about? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought entirely. Squirrel. Somebody reel me back in. What were we yapping about? Here we go. Chris is gonna reel me. Oh, Val, we're talking about differently. I use handy capable just because I'm the chairman of the San Bernardino County Fair Fine Art Department and Photography Department. So I try to be politically correct all the way across the board. And some of those artists are damn amazing. With that said, if they don't meet your criteria, they don't meet your criteria. There are some fair housing issues. And let me say this, as far as them not being able to get in the bathroom with a wheelchair, they could give you at any time a request for a reasonable modification, which would allow them to widen the door frame of the property, put in a larger door, and they'd have to pay for all of it, not you. Okay, just so you understand, that is something that goes on. You have to take them first come, first serve. And do they meet your criteria? Do they meet your minimum FICO score? Do they meet all of the criteria points that you added? Because if you have a mother and then, hang on, let me read it again. A mother and you didn't talk about who's with her. I'm assuming it's her kids, but is it her son and the wife? Is it two other kids? Just help me understand the relationship real quick, Val. That's going to help point me in the right direction. I'm looking for multiple protected classes is what I'm headed for, just so you understand. And why can I not see my messages? Oh, good God, what did I? You guys, I'm dying today. Okay, get to you.
Patty, on this same note, I feel like with the whole well, I don't want to say differently. What did you say? Differently abled?
Handy capable.
Okay, handy capable, but I don't know how to phrase this, but I feel like by being overly cautious to not discriminate, you end up favoring the different, which is handy capable people. So isn't that almost like discriminating the reverse? Because it's like now you like, for me, I feel like there's almost an obligation to have to accept them, like especially when they start talking about the ADA and stuff like that. I'm
I
like,
don't care what they talk about. They could talk about whatever they want. I'm very simple when it comes to this type of thing. You either meet my criteria or you don't. I'm very adamant about it. If you don't meet my criteria and I'm managing the property for profit, I'm going to go talk to the owner and see if they want to make an exception for a less than desirable. Oh, how sweet. Sorry, somebody just sent me a really sweet text message. That was awesome. Okay. It's just a better way to handle it. So I got you the son who is the caretaker. Ah, there we go. Okay. Sometimes if you give, and I'm with you, Julia, I'm with you. I got you 100%. That's what's hanging right here always for me is whatever the protected class is, whether it be somebody that's disabled, whether it be a married couple, whether it be children, whatever it may be, whatever the protected class is what we need to do. We need to focus there, make sure that we're not crossing any lines or breaking any laws. So what's the very first thing that I asked? Do they meet your criteria? Because if they meet your criteria, then you're obligated to rent to them on a first come, first served basis under the new statute, under the law, or it could be considered discriminatory, period.
Isn't that if you take application fees?
Right, but hear me out, okay? And thank you, Chris. It's more than just if you take application fees, okay? Once you start comparing side by side, you're telling fair housing, oh, I didn't charge them. So they already know I'm going to come after you to see if you broke the law. Because you know as well as I do, they put that guideline of first come, first serve to make sure that people aren't breaking the law and discriminating. Because you could discriminate by looking at their Facebook account. That could be considered discrimination. They could have a picture of their interracial children on there and they're all hugging as a family, but then they say that you use that against them. You understand? It's all a matter of he said, she said at that point, depending on what you're using to screen your applicant.
You've always said that well, maybe not you, but I've always heard that one of the criteria is that every adult in the unit is supposed to qualify independently, right?
Unless
Supposed to
they're a
meet your,
married couple. Because a married couple is considered a protected class because they're married, right? Ah. In
well,
other
but
words,
okay, but they
as
still have to meet your income requirement, right? I mean,
correct. So if the husband works off the property during the day and the wife works on the property, meaning she's a home health technician of her own children. What do they call that when the mom is a stay-at-home mom? But they don't call it anymore. They call it it has another name and I love it because it's like household manager. There you go. The household manager. Whatever it may be, that's a lot of work. And if you have kids, that's a job in itself. And if you're homeschooling them, you got 2 careers now. You know, it's not a joke. But if husband can support enough financially, you can't discriminate because wife decides to be at stay at home, take care of children. That's what I mean about a protected class. If they're married, you have a protected class. So she just has the son that's the caretaker. Well, here's something that we're going to ask later. He's the caretaker, meaning he just is employed by her. Technically, he doesn't need to meet your criteria. He's that her employee. Only she has to meet your criteria. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So if the wife isn't working in a husband-wife scenario, but the husband, and I should say this, if the husband isn't working and he's staying home, taking the kids, running the family, doing all that crap that goes along with making that all work, and she's out making the money, you can't discriminate against him and say he doesn't qualify because he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have any income. They're married, they are as one. Okay? The son, who is a caretaker, is saying he's going to live there. Is he applying to live there, Val? Because my question becomes if he's already diagnosing, or I'm sorry, if he is already giving himself a title as an employee and not a resident, it could cause you issues later. Does that make sense?
Well, couldn't it cause you issues if he's a resident too? Because
Yeah.
I mean, you want him.
I'd rather have him as a caretaker and not as a resident, but that's between you, me, and the wall.
Yeah. Well, it depends whether he's really full-time caretaker, right? I don't remember.
Yeah, and how many people do we know, elder in their age, that have reached out to their children or grandchildren to help them, and what ends up coming in to help them ends up being some kind of other issue that they didn't even know anything about. You know, grandma's going to have great grandson come take care of her. Great grandson, unfortunately, has an addiction to methamphetamines that great grandma knew nothing about. And now that's a whole problem in her own house. So I've seen that happen quite a bit at the law firm. Unfortunately, it does happen. But caretaker position, here, let me say it a different way. Okay. An employee of a tenant has less rights than a tenant does. Look at it this way. Pay attention. If your tenant hires a newspaper boy, and I know they don't have those anymore, okay, but hear me out. I'm old. They have a paper boy, and the paper boy starts talking to you about how you run your rental property. What are you going to tell the paper boy? You're not my tenant. I don't have to listen to you. If something happens and your tenant moves out and the paper boy says, I live here now, what are you going to tell the paper boy? No, you don't. Paying attention? A caregiver, an employee of the tenant, has less rights than the tenant does.
There's a few eviction attorneys out there that have the caretaker addendum that specifically says they don't live there, they have no rights. And if they're going to be there, God willing, you're able to get them to sign something like that. Because I had a situation where a caretaker ended up having a relationship with this guy. He died. And she says, well, I've been living here for 4 years. And it was in Glassell Park, a 3-bedroom apartment for $785 that they could have got $3,700 for. And
It can happen just as easy as you're saying in a different aspect, because if you ever take rent from the caregiver is now your tenant. Unless they sign saying that they're not creating a tenancy by accepting the rent from this person.
yeah.
So it can happen in many ways where they can, bam, they're your tenant. They stayed there more than 14 consecutive days. Bam, they're your tenant. You collected rent from them. I mean, it just depends. That's what I mean in this industry when I say, you guys, there are so many variables.
You known or should have known.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda, might have, maybe.
Did you walk throughs regularly? You would have known. Yeah.
So I have a thought experiment.
Uh-oh.
Only because I've seen it back in the day in private
You
practice.
guys don't mind if we walk at the same time? Because I really want to go into where I'm supposed to be. I'm getting overheated in my car. So Lorena, girl, watch out. Here I come. But we're going to get out of my car now, okay? So go ahead. Keep talking.
What happens, kind of on the same vein, but what happens if it's a non-family member caretaker and they wind up getting married?
Once they get married, they're a protected class, husband and wife, or husband and husband, wife and wife, whatever
Right.
it may be. It is. I'm trying not to say the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Because the last thing I want to do is offend anybody. She's coming to help me.
Well, the only reason that was the situation I saw directly. I had a very interesting conservatorship that involved that. Let's just say that. Or
once they get married, they're a protected class.
Right, but somebody was pushing to get married, and there were reasons.
I bet it was an old fart and money involved. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
There was hospice care involved, Kathy.
That was close.
You were more than close.
This isn't my first rodeo.
Yeah, so I mean, I would definitely be on the lookout for that, because unfortunately some of the people who are caretaking are definitely agenda driven.
Morning. Fresh out the oven?
Yeah, just took out of the oven.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody's got something fresh out of the oven. Can you mute yourself? Or whatever it is we want some. All right, anybody else have anything that we need to discuss?
Yes, Patty, on that same topic though, someone had asked me, like, I get once you're married, you fall under a protected class, but the son had called me and said, well, I take care of my elderly mom, so she doesn't qualify. But I get we're not obviously married. She's my mom, but I take care of her. She has no income. She has no credit. So how does that work? Do you put, it has to be?
He's a co-signer. He's a guarantor. Unless he plans on living there, then he's a co-signer.
So then on your criteria, do you put, what did that, somebody in the chat put it, like combined, what is it? Combined income.
Combined income if they're married. Look at it this way. You know how you have that boyfriend that shows up with that girl that's been living there forever? She's like, hi, my new boyfriend's moving in. And you're like, okay, here we go. It's like the 6th one this year. It gets frustrating to us. It happens quite a bit. We don't have to allow him to live there until they get married. And then we can't do anything about it. So as long as there's a boyfriend or a girlfriend involved, you don't have to allow it. Once they get married, you have to.
But if it's a 2-bedroom, she lives there by herself. There's
If you have a occupancy limit, different set of facts. How you approach that needs to be handled very cautiously from a fair housing perspective. Let me give you an example. In the event you have someone that has had a new child and you have an occupancy limit, You do not go confront them with the cure or quit notice when they're walking up with the infant and the balloons from the hospital that says congratulations. Okay, it's just very You start having the conversation as you notice that they're having another child of you're going to be over your occupancy limit. You know, within a certain amount of time after the child's being born, you want to start addressing you're over your occupancy limit. And then I would be talking to your legal counsel that's going to represent you in court because, again, it is a very touchy subject. Children are a protected class in the state of California. So you have to be very cautious on how you approach it. Okay, this isn't a time for us to go off with their head, off with their head. It just doesn't work that way. Wouldn't it be great if it was? I'd be like, oh, what'd you say to me? No, you're done. Bye, bye-bye. It would be awesome, but we can't do that, unfortunately. I don't look good in orange.
Not for children. Okay, Patty, got something to throw at you from left field. This whole Section 8 situation in Los Angeles County right now. I'm actually on the owner's council for Section 8. So quarterly, we have a meeting over on Wilshire. So sort of got some inside info. But as of right now, they're issuing no more vouchers. And they also said people that are trying to move to go from one place to another, that might not get accepted. So I have 5 lease listings right now. And people say, well, I got a voucher. Well, I know from being on the inside that with the
April,
budget.
I'm going to call on you. Go ahead, keep talking, Dave. I'm just
Okay.
told somebody else I'm going to call on them.
Okay,
Because I'm about ready to throw something at you, and you guys are all going to go, wait a minute, what did you just say? So you keep talking, David. Everybody pay attention.
So they say I have a voucher, and I say, you may want to call your housing advocate and see if they're actually honoring those with the budget cuts and everything that's happened in this very short period of time. Things are a little crazy out there. So if that, and I tell them, look, I'm an advocate for Section 8. I don't discriminate. I actually turn a lot of my owners into Section 8. So I believe in the program, but I'm just telling you not to get your hopes up or go through the whole process and get let down. You may want to make sure that that new voucher is going to be honored for a new property. Okay, so I'm done.
Okay, let me say something out loud, and then I'm going to call on April because everybody's going to be so ecstatic to hear this part. Okay. Somebody's telling me they're trying to get in, but I don't see them. So I'm not going to go there. Okay. I get what you're telling me. And if I was taking over an apartment community with an on-site manager, the first thing I do when I get hired is I walk in there and I terminate the on-site. In fact, I terminate the entire staff. I could spend the next 6 to 8 months trying to break bad habits and retrain bad ways of doing business, but the owner didn't call me because everything was sunshine and roses. We already know whatever his staff is doing doesn't work. So the first thing I want to do is come in there, reboot, reload, start over, put my own people in there, train them the way that I need them to go so everything functions quickly. If I do it my way, I can flip a building in 6 months. Do you hear me? 6 months. If I keep your staff there, I'll be lucky if I can turn it in 18 months. Because I'm on an uphill battle trying to break their bad habit. Yes, that's what's happening right now on a federal level with Trump. He's trying to clean house. He's trying to clear the apartment and make it all function again. And the only way he can do that is by reboot and reload. So that's why we're seeing some of this stuff happening. That's why we're seeing the half amounts for the tenants. I remember 10 years ago, tenants were paying $12 a month in rent on Section 8. $12.
Well, I got a few that don't pay anything right now.
Okay, I get it. But now I'm seeing a shift in the government where we're seeing that the tenant's responsible for more of the portion where the federal government's responsible for less. So I'm seeing a shift, and that's what I mean about apartment takeover Section 8. I was giving an example of what's happening on a federal level, like it was an apartment takeover. So sorry if you missed the translation. But April, if you could unmute yourself and introduce yourself, you guys wait till you check this out, okay?
Good morning, everyone. My name is April Adams, and I'm with a company. I started a company called RentWise LA, And I'm a former Section 8 supervisor at HACLA, and I started my company to help landlords. I'm a landlord myself, and I help landlords navigate the leasing process, and I'm also helping them get their rent increases approved. And it's a lot going on right now. And to circle back to what Patty said, yeah, he's this administration is cleaning house, and a lot of stuff that the housing authority has in its pipeline is just on hold because nobody knows exactly what's
Yeah, they
happening.
said it's frozen.
Yeah.
Everything's frozen.
So they do have vouchers. They're actually looking, the tenants are turning in RFTAs, and it's just stuck. One of the reasons why it's stuck is because in the housing authorities in anticipation of this, they started a new software, and they went from an older software over to Yardi. And everybody, you got to think, HACLA is the second largest housing authority in the United States. So everybody else is
Hey,
looking at them
April,
successful.
help me
Mm.
because Hagla sounds a lot like Agla. So
Oh,
make
oh,
sure that you're explaining. I know.
okay. Thank you. HACLA, when I say is Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles, is the second largest housing authority in the United States. The only competition they have is NYCHA, which is New York Housing Authority. So everybody, all the housing authority, all Section 8 in the nation is looking how New York is going, and they're looking at how LA City is going. And right now, LA City is not is struggling. And a lot of the RFTAs and stuff that's in the pipeline is stuck because in their anticipation of the new administration coming in, they changed over their software, and they went from an older software. Now they're using Yardi, and you have, to me, you have legacy employees who are not making the transition well, and they need to be trained. And so you got vouchers that are on the street, and they're
Chris
not.
is asking what an RFTA is.
RFTA is a request for tenancy approval. It's the same as a RTA for LA County.
County.
And
Correct.
so you have to fill it out. It's about 5 pages. It's not too complicated. My service, I provide that service. So I handle all that. But if you want to do it, there's nothing that I'm doing that you can't do yourself. It's just that I have inside knowledge, and I know where to look to make sure you're getting the highest rent.
Okay, but back to my original question. These
Uh-huh.
people saying, so I have 5 lease listings. I have people, I have Section 8 voucher, and I'm like, well, there's a lot going on right now. And they're saying, no, my person told me this. I said, well, you may want to call them back. So my question back to Patty and April is,
Mhm.
am I doing the right thing by saying, hey, I believe in the program. I'm not, I don't even use the word discrimination because that's below, my character.
Mhm.
It's just that at the end of the day, after submitting the RFTA, I had one, we didn't even get an inspection 58 days after the RFTA was put in. So my person
Well,
said, forget it. So how do we handle, I guess, cutting to the chase?
okay.
How do we handle today? People saying, yeah, I want to look
Hold
at it.
on,
I got a
hold
Section
on.
8 voucher.
Okay.
Chris,
So
I got a question for Chris. Is a reasonable amount of time for us to hold a property open for a governmental program 30 days? And then we could cancel, or do we need to hold it longer than that?
there's no requirement to hold it. If you don't like how long it's taking Section 8 to move on your lease up, you can cancel the RFTA. Now,
I understand. I'm asking somebody that has a different perspective. Hold on, April.
okay.
Chris, is 30 days an unreasonable amount of time for us to cancel?
I think 30 days is pretty reasonable. I mean, there's
I mean, I'm
at a
looking at
certain
both
point,
sides of the fence here, you know
at a
what I
certain,
mean?
I mean, it's mostly arguments, but at a certain point, it's a business decision. Like you
Yes.
can't really be forced to
Just like
lose
April's
money
saying. Okay, I
forever
got you.
just
Yeah. Somebody
just
could come by
because
a week later with cash and say, I'm ready now.
Well,
And
let me just add this, because I'm exploring opportunity with a landlord who went through the same thing, and it took like 3 weeks before you got the inspection. Once I came on board, they moved a lot quicker because I'm starting to establish a name for myself outside of, just being a.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yes, you are, girl.
Okay.
You run.
Okay. But what I'm exploring is that the housing authority pays late fees. And a lot of owners don't know that you can get late fees. And the housing authority is regulated by HUD about how long it's supposed to take. And if they go longer than that, now they're not in compliance with HUD's federal program. And so I'm exploring those avenues on how to recoup the money that you lost, because that's vacancy loss. And the whole program is supposed to be, the whole process is supposed to take no more than 30 days. And that's for the rent offer, the inspection, the second rent offer, the negotiation. And when they take longer than that, then you're faced with vacancy loss. And I'm exploring ways right now with an attorney and with a landlord who had that, on how to get that money back.
If
So
there's no
you do have
contract,
recourse.
no lease has been written, there's no agreements anywhere. Good luck with that.
That's why
Well,
I'm
no,
saying
just
30
just on the,
minimal.
I'm sorry, just on the simple fact that you filled out the RFTA and it was submitted, the housing authority is obligated to process that RFTA timely. And that's a
The
part of
legal
the federal
document
code.
says timely, or does it say
It,
30?
it,
I've never read that.
well,
I
I
never.
have.
Okay.
So it's in there. It's in there. And so
Now
that's
HIP, when they've done something on HIP, boy, boom, they're on it. The HIP
mhm.
program is fantastic. You just go in standard
Hey.
section 8, it's a different world.
Well, you have,
April,
oh,
can you do me a favor? Can you put all of your contact information in the chat so that all of our Widgets Way members now realize that we have a Section 8 specialist that's among us and on our side of the fence?
okay. I definitely do that, but let me, my brain can only do
A
so
lot
much
of
at a time.
my property managers, and I can see them right now going, what's her number? How do I call her?
I,
Wait,
I
what?
definitely want to do that, but let me address what he was saying, because the housing authority is especially housing authority city of Los Angeles, is so big that they get so many grants. And it's so political about the amount of homelessness we have in Los Angeles. So when they get these grants, the grants are for specific programs. And so HIP is from that HHH funding. And so all hands are on deck with the HHH. That's why it's moving quickly. Then you got another grant that came for VASH. So if
Yeah.
you go to the VASH program, it's moving quickly because all their
Correct.
human resources are on those two programs. Now, if you're not in either one of those two programs, then you're in the regular pipeline with the regular smegular delays.
Correct.
So that's why you get a quick response with HIP and you get a quick response with VASH, because they're grant funded. The mayor is watching, all eyes are watching, but where the eyes are not watching, you have delays. So with that said, I'm gonna put my information in the chat. I spent 20, just short of 22 years issuing vouchers and contracting, which is scheduling the initial inspection, making offers, issuing payments and adjustments to owners.
April, hi. My name's Lorena, and I have a quick question. In regards to the late fees and everything that you discussed, what does that also entail for rent raises that we've been waiting like a year to get responses for?
I think, me personally, as a landlord, if you held my rent increase for a year and you finally give it to me, I want my rent increase plus late payments on that rent increase. But
Did you submit it properly?
well, with rent increases, now this is
Section 8.
another point. I just recently gave a webinar with AGLA, which is Apartment Association Greater Los Angeles, and I spoke about this point. When you start your lease, and I'm gonna tie into rent increases, so I haven't forgot. When you start your lease, the housing authority use public resources from LADBS to build the data on your property in their systems. So they have to leave out their system, open up another window, go to LADBS, and then from the LADBS, which is the building and safety, building and safety, they get the information on the size of your property, the building type, the year built. They get all that kind of data, and they plug it into the housing authority system, and they use that data to determine the value of your property.
Rent reasonable, you mean?
Rent reasonables. So they get that data from public resources. However, if you are adamant and you're on your job, you're going to go and search and get that information. But if you have a desk that has a lot of stuff on it, you may not be as thorough on getting the appropriate data that's needed for your property. So that's why sometimes when you get the initial rent offer and you think everything's like, why was my rent offer, $80 or $120 less than what I expected? That's your opportunity to review the reasonable rent and the data that they use, that they collected to determine the value. So now I'm gonna switch over to rent increases. If you let the incorrect data attached to your property stay there for so long, then that's why I can't say that's why. No, I'm not going to say that's why. I'm thinking that might contribute to the reason why your rent increases the following years are not being approved, because it was incorrect data that was put in the system when you established the lease there. And you should, at the time that you do your rent increases, request to go over the data that is that they captured. They're not going to want to do it. Just like when they make a rent offer, they're not going to want to give you
Nobody wants to pay more. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to push back. So that could you need to ask for a reassessment whenever you get a rent offer that's less than what you're asking for. And to your question about rent increases, when you request your rent increase and it's denied, you need to go over that same data and you need to ask for a reassessment, which is a rent reasonableness for
That's pretty
that
basic.
reason as well.
If RSO says you can increase it 4%, you're already getting a rent, you just put in for 4%. It takes 90 days, I believe, for it to kick in. But I've
I
never
think
had
it's supposed to be 60 days, but yeah, they're 90 plus days behind.
Yeah, they tell us 90, but if you can do 4%, you're getting $1,000. You ask for $40. I've never seen any pushback.
Why don't we have April come do a special class for us in a couple months if she's available and teach us more about Section 8? What do you guys think of that? Let me know.
Especially with all the current guidelines.
Right?
That would be wonderful. I'll be available. Thank you.
No problem. I would love that. I'm sure everybody here would. Christina, regarding your tenant issue, that might work, girl. That might work, or give her an option to terminate tenancy. Give her an either or. I learned a long time ago that if you have an option rather than a demand or a request or a suggestion, it works much better. So sometimes the option is a good thing. Even if one of the options sucks, even if one of the options sucks, it's still a good thing to have an option.
An option to
I was
leave.
just thinking the garage is available to her, and I can let her put all her stuff there for free.
Right,
So now she doesn't have to pay anything.
Right, it totally made sense to me as soon as you said it, and I'm glad you got to think that through, and now you found a solution to your problem. I love it when we can all do that.
Okay, so then give her the option, like, you can put all your stuff here for free, and it could take, let's say, 6 to 8 months. Or if you don't want to wait that long, like, I completely understand if you don't want to, and you make up your decision on what you want to do. Okay.
Exactly. You're giving them, here's your options. Let me know what you want to do and get back to me by this date.
Okay.
But give them a deadline of a date. You've got to give a deadline, or else. And there's got to be the else's, or else we'll continue this relationship the way that it's sitting currently. you know? Unless there's gotta be an or else. So throw that in there
Contract
too.
for the garage, even if it's at 0. Something.
Yeah.
And how long do I give her, like a week, 2 weeks? What's reasonable?
She's just making a decision that's ultimately gonna save her money in the long run. So she'd be a fool not to take it, but just tell her to get back to you within 5 days. I think that's a reasonable amount of time for what we're talking about. It isn't too crazy.
Okay.
And then Val, you found out that the son is paid by IHSS. Is
Yeah.
he using that as part of the income to qualify to live there? Pay attention. Because if they're using that as the income, he's basically getting paid to take care of his own mother by the state, because it's cheaper to do that than put them in a home. And I'm talking about a level of healthcare up here, not down here. Sorry, I have a friend involved in the medical field and in elderly patients, and they always try to place them in home with a family member that can help take care of them. And then they pay that family member for so many hours a month. And if that family member is taking that money from the county that they're being paid to take care of their parent, sorry, this is a really hard subject for me. It can be used as income, but then they're a tenant, they're giving you their IHSS to prove income. So now I go back to do they meet your criteria? And we can talk about this after if you need more help.
Wait,
But
did
still,
I?
combined income is 3,250 and the rent is 1,500. What about FICO scores? And Chris, I know you're asking something, but here's how I'm looking at it, okay? He's saying that he's gonna live there with his mom, but he gets paid by the state to take care of his mom. So in the event mom passes away, he's not gonna be able to afford to live there anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't think,
I don't
right,
know.
so
The only
as a
thing is
tenant,
you can't discriminate it by source of income, right?
I can't discriminate by source of income, but if he doesn't individually qualify, he doesn't meet my criteria.
Right, right.
That
That's why-
criteria needs to be in writing on the app. I have a cover page.
If mom, absolutely, if mom doesn't meet my criteria and needs son's income to meet the criteria, then neither one of them qualify. Make sense? They are not married. I do not have to combine their income.
What?
They are not married.
So you're telling me roommates have to,
Individually qualify, if that's what your criteria says.
okay. I use the word combined, so.
Okay, I don't. And it's really good that we're having this conversation.
Yeah, this is good to learn for me personally.
People need to know that there's options.
Yeah, you're in
People
LA,
need to know.
baby. You gotta make some adjustments, man.
Hey, you always have, it doesn't matter where you are. Let me tell you something.
But seriously, LA County compared to Orange County, I mean, compared to San Bernardino, Riverside is whack. You know, whole bunch of things.
You know, I call it the devil's cauldron for a reason.
So
Yeah,
I think if there's roommates or boyfriend, girlfriend, or two cousins,
Somebody
if
said,
combined, they
"Honey,
meet it, then
devils don't have cauldrons, witches do." And I'm like, yeah, it's a combination of the two.
yeah, but I actually have on my cover page, I have my criteria. And it does say, you know, not to exceed 40%. And then I also, because of that new law in January, I say no 30, 60, or 90-day delinquencies and no convictions for violent offenses. So I put it right there on the cover page. And I started putting in a 675.
All applicants 18 or older must apply.
Yeah, that's all in there.
Hold on, and I have one more that I just wanted to grab. All applicants must see the property before applying.
Must what?
Must see the property before applying.
And your purpose for that is what?
I can't tell you how many times I've rented a property because the husband fell in love with the 4-car attached garage and the workshop that went with it, only for the wife to show up and say, I hate the bathroom, the kitchen, and the bedroom. We're not living here. He thought she didn't. It is a huge issue. You guys pay attention, okay? Because if your spouse ain't happy, it ain't happening.
Well, but that's partly what a holding deposit's for too, right?
Exactly, it
Or
is.
security
If they
deposit.
don't come until
No, a holding deposit, totally separate than a security deposit. It only
Yeah.
converts into a security deposit upon tenancy, upon occupancy, I guess.
upon the signing of a lease.
Signing
Yeah,
a lease.
and taking possession, no?
No. No, if I sign a lease, like I'm doing one now, and they're not moving in till May 7th, and I ask them, as soon as we sign the lease, we need the security deposit, then we have a contract. The security deposit on the car form says you got to pay commissions, you're responsible till it's leased, the whole thing. So, yeah, I've never heard of a holding deposit. Patty, is there such a thing?
It is 110% the best business practice in the industry, and let me explain to you why. If your tenant backs out of your pre-signed lease on May the 6th, how much money can you charge them for backing out? Not a frickin' dime. Read your contract. A holding deposit agreement allows you, it's a separate agreement all by itself.
Where?
Allows you to hold that amount of money until they sign the lease contract at move-in. If they back out of the holding deposit agreement, you can charge them daily rent out of that money. That's what that says. If you pre-sign the lease, you're standing on your own feet.
And it kind of covers your butt in the event that for any reason, if there's a holdover or you can't deliver possession of the unit.
It gives you an out.
All they can get back is the holding deposit. So it kind of is the best. It's like eating your cake, and it's like having your cake and eating it too.
I've never seen a form. I've never seen a form. I've never heard the word holding deposit.
CAA has one. I think AGLA has ones I don't like as much.
AOA
Yes,
also has one.
Okay, it's called a holding deposit agreement. And just for future reference, and everybody listen to what I'm saying to you. Because people ask me all the time, Patty, when should they sign the rental agreement? Here's when they should sign the rental agreement. When you're standing in the property with them, you've just completed doing the walkthrough inspection. They've signed the lease contract. You have all the money and you're giving them the keys. That's when they sign the lease, not before then. If you're signing the lease on a different day or giving them keys on a different day than what it says on the lease paperwork, it could be fraud. If you're managing property for profit, could be embezzlement. You move them in on the day that's on the lease document. That's when you give them the key. That's when you sign the lease. That's when you make sure you have all the money. You can't go one day over that. If they don't have all the money, kick rocks with open-toed shoes. I'm not moving you in. Okay? A holding deposit agreement is what saves you for the time between approval and inception. Okay? It's what allows you to charge daily rent. It's what allows you to back out of the contract in the event you can't produce. Let me explain. You have a holdover tenant, like Chris was saying. In other words, you pre-rent a property, they're supposed to be out on the 15th, the new tenant's moving in on the 17th, maybe the 18th, because you allowed for a couple days for carpet cleaning. The only problem is they didn't vacate. They didn't move out. They're still in there, and you have a new person coming in, and they already have a signed lease. Because they have a signed lease, you have to provide them a habitable dwelling. So you need to put them in a hotel until those people get out. See the problem?
Yeah.
A holding deposit agreement would allow you to stop that and say, I'm sorry, I can't produce the unit. You get your whole holding deposit agreement back. Sorry. Got it? It's the easy button for our industry. Now, here comes the questions. I got to be careful. Do I have a copy available of my rental qualifications. Yes, it's under tools on the Widgets Way website. Arlene, do you take a full month rent for holding deposit? No, I take the security deposit plus the full month's rent. Everybody pay attention. And I'm going to use Friday the 25th as an example just because it's in my head and I know what's going on. I'm just getting Widget's brain, okay? We're doing a move-in on Friday, the 25th. I approved the applicant on the 1st. I wanted a holding deposit, which was the security deposit in full. I usually like the first month's rent in full, but if they can't produce both, I'm good with the full amount of the security deposit within 72 hours of them being approved. Okay, they signed that holding deposit agreement and my blonde brain says I'll hold that property for no longer than 3 weeks. Why will I hold it for 3 weeks? Because it's most ethical. If they're living somewhere else and they're moving out, I want them to give their landlord a 30-day notice. You know why? Because I expect them to give me one. Paying attention? With that being said, 3 weeks is a reasonable amount of time because that 4th week they could be spending moving, right? And then they have a whole week that they're transferring the property over. So they're going to have a whole week where they're paying rent at 2 different places, but it makes the most sense. So the longest I want to hold the property is 21 days, not 22. Okay, so I then have them hold a holding deposit agreement to that move-in date. And then in the event they back out at any time, I'm going to charge them per diem daily holdover damages of what 1/30th of the rent from the day they sign the holding deposit agreement to the day they back out in writing. If they move in on the 25th, I'm going to collect a full first month's rent on the 25th, and that is for the month of April. I am then going to prorate the month of May for the amount of days that they were in the property for the month of April, and that was 6. So they owe 6 days of rent on May 1st, which is in 5 days. And then on June 1st, their rent kicks in as usual. Everybody paying attention? And did that make sense? I got dead silence. Okay.
So what do you do if it's more than 21 days and they, and you want to hold it for them and they seem like good,
That's a business decision. That's a business decision. That's up to you. Just
So
remember,
is it
as
okay
long
to
as
hold
you're
it for
holding-
28 days
you
if
can
they
hold
give you the
that
money?
property for 45 days. Here's the problem. While you're holding it, you're not collecting rent.
No,
So-
I know, but if you
So a
have
sense of urgency needs to be there on your side a little bit too. That's why I say I don't hold for more than 3 weeks because I get giving them a 30-day notice. Could I hold for 4 weeks? Yeah, I could. I could hold for 2 months if I wanted to. The problem is I like money.
yeah, well, I do, but I do too. And when if it's like,
it depends on the circumstance.
if it's like May 1st, right? And somebody on May 1st is like, I want to move in June 1st and it's going to be
and what if
available
they say
June
I want to
1st.
move in September 1st?
No, then kick rocks. I mean, of course,
With
I'm
open
not.
toe shoes, man.
But I just mean like it's to your advantage too to lock somebody in and have, money if they flake on you. Oh, sorry, I'm charging you daily on this and
But you
remarketing
got to
it.
figure this
So,
out. If you only took 1 month's rent as a security deposit, you only have 1 month's worth of rent to play with. After that, your cushion's gone. You're paying on your dime.
yeah, I know.
Remember me, I don't like to spend money. I don't like to leverage money. I want to err on the side of
Hey,
caution.
Patty, I think this whole thing would be a great beginning topic, this whole deposit receipt. Honestly, first time I've ever heard about it. I've been doing this 10 years. So I'm going to read that.
Did we just give you a tool in the industry to help you going forward so that did you just go? That's awesome.
I'm writing a lease right now and I'm going to incorporate this, so.
No, you're not.
It's a separate document. It's a separate document.
I know. I put it in the chat. I went on AOA. They called it deposit receipt and offer to rent. It's not called a holding. But when you bring up the document itself, it does say holding. But in AOA, it doesn't say holding in the description. So it only allows 1,000 characters in the chat box. So I had to delete a bunch of the language. but you can see right there at the top, it says holding deposit agreement. So when you bring it up, that's what it says, and it's all right there. So yeah, this is new to me.
Okay, but now it makes sense. It's what protects your asset between inception and approval. Okay, in that blank space, it's what protects you.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna read it in detail and.
No worries. If you have questions, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
And Patty, I suppose in the event, the way you do it, if you're basically the last thing before you hand them keys is signing the lease.
I do
Right,
it on
that's-
the day that the lease is dated, the move-in date. I make sure I have.
Right.
Yeah,
But you said like you do the walkthrough first or whatever. So what I'm in the event that somebody all of a sudden finds things that they consider deal breakers, okay, sorry, but I'm gonna have to charge against your holding deposit. No?
the second they sign the lease, the
As
holding.
long if it's
deposit-
not a no, I know. Before that though, I'm saying if they're unwilling to sign the lease and there's some issue like
If-
that
if
that's not a
they back
habitability
out-
issue.
If they back out, in other words, the wife shows up and says, oh, I can't sign the lease for this place. Did you see the size of the kitchen? The only reason he wants to live here is because of the garage. How do I know this?
And-
Is because it happened to me. Okay. So at
But
that
also
point,
if,
I
like,
say, well,
But if
we
it's
can go
something else,
ahead and not sign the lease today, and you can back out in writing.
but similarly, it
Did
could
you
be
catch
something
it?
like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this stove. Will you replace the stove for me? And you're like, no, like you saw this stove when you visited the place. Maybe you want to back out of the lease in writing.
Did you see the house prior to renting? Because it is part of our criteria. It's a snotty way to say it, but it is verbiage you can use.
Also, I guess not that you'd admit it, but in the event that they start becoming super demanding before I think my headphones just died.
We can still hear you though.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah,
Ah, shoot, one sec.
you can't hear us. Should we talk about him badly right about now?
Wait, now can you hear me?
We can hear you the whole time, Chris.
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear myself at all.
I know we were talking badly about you.
Right, sure. Um, you and everybody else in the world. But I think you said too at one point, though we'll deny this, that if they become like super ASCII, I don't know what's the word in the industry, demanding, if all of a sudden
If you find yourself chasing ghosts because they're just genuinely not happy living there.
no, but not even that. I'm talking about before the inception of the lease or whatever. If all of a sudden they're getting very demanding and they don't have possession and they don't have a lease, it gives you an out where you just make a little white lie that almost nobody's going to investigate or do anything about, and you give them their money back and claim you can't deliver it to them, right? Say something like, there's a
I don't know.
habitability.
I think Widget's frozen. I hope other people are giggling. I'm not going to confirm, deny, admit, acknowledge. I'm not going to react. What do we call it? Plastic face.
Nod, wink, wink, people.
Hi, thank you so much for letting me know that that was an issue for you. I'll let my legal counsel know and get back to you.
I actually do have a different question that isn't like for now, but thinking towards the future, and I just wanted to know the answer.
Okay.
So for an SFR that's supposed to be exempt from LARSO, and I mean, we just registered for the just cause, but when it's exempt from AB 1482, that's the one, right? Did I get it right?
AB 1482, and what would be exempt?
Like a single family residence that's not held by like a corporate entity.
Only if they disclose to the tenant at inception.
Right. I'm assume that it's in the lease because it's a CAA lease and it was
Yes. Yes.
just add that fact.
There is a date that you have to put in there if it's an ADU.
No. This isn't just a straight out SFR.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Whoa,
So
my
am
camera
I,
tried to flip over.
am I correct in thinking you have, what's your limit on rent increase? How long do you have to do it? And at what point is there a, like, I mean, what kind of notice requirement is there? And at what point is it considered like, can it be considered tenant harassment or retaliation?
Look, keep it simple. Do one increase a year.
No, I know, but they're on a 1 year lease anyway, so I know you can't increase mid-lease. But what I'm trying to get at is if you want to encourage someone to leave because they're a pain in your asset, what are you able to do when it's exempt? Like,
I would ask them if they're not happy living there, that I would accept their 30-day notice and allow them to move out of the property without penalty.
right, and I know that, but thinking towards next year, if you're like, if things continue and you kind of want to maybe change tenants out,
I'm gonna make you freak out right now. Under the TPA, you can terminate tenancy at the end of a fixed term lease as a notice of non-renewal without having to pay reloads.
yeah, but isn't there JCO though? Oh, it's not a JCO because it's not an eviction. It's just a termination of the lease.
Ending a fixed term lease, correct, absolutely, with no reloads.
Wait, so why do all these people have such problems with, and why do they need, are the buyout agreements only in RSO properties?
They're not ending a fixed term lease.
They let it go month to month or something stupid?
Bingo, 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 bingo.
Oh, well, we always knew you don't,
agreement,
we always knew you don't do that.
Makes sense? A lot
Yeah.
of people don't understand that that's a provision under the municipality that you can utilize. So with that being said, they don't utilize it. They just
Right.
let it go month to month and that's it. They've been that way for
No,
12 years.
we never do, but we'll see, because we'll see if that's still the law next February or January when it's.
Yeah, the wind could blow at any time. And whenever
know.
that happens, you know.
Right. Okay. Great, thanks.
All right. Anybody have anything else? I don't want to keep you guys. I know we're over the hour.
I do, Patty, one last question.
Go ahead.
When I'm talking to the tenant about the insurance or her tenant insurance not covering the whole PRC bill, how do I have that conversation with her with also letting her know and being sensitive to the fact that I'm not responsible to pay the difference?
I'm gonna ask you one question. I want you to think about it real long and real hard. When PRC handed her the paperwork and asked her to sign because they were packing her stuff out, did she sign that or did you sign that?
I believe she did.
Then it's a her problem, not a you problem.
Okay. Even though I said
that is a
the company.
separate contract with them that she signed, period, end of report. In the event she wants to sue, she could name you in it, but or they sue her because of non-payment. They're not going to come after you. You didn't sign the contract.
Okay.
Okay.
How would you have that discussion with her to let her know that PRC is going to be working with her bill and her insurance isn't going to cover?
Contact them directly. You're not a party in this action. That is between her insurance company and PRC, and you have no bearing in it at all.
Even though I'm the one who hired PRC and said, hey, by the way, they're going to handle everything.
No, she hired PRC when she filed that document.
I agree, but I feel that I imposed them.
That was her choice. I'm
Okay.
trying to cover you. Stop trying to jump back in front of the fire. You got it?
Okay, because I just want to be sensitive to the fact that she's going to get hit with this bill that I know I'm not responsible.
No, her insurance company is going to get hit with that bill, and that's why they're barking. They don't want to pay it.
Yeah.
Let those two people duke it out together. Let PRC go toe to toe with them. That's what they do. Stay out of it. Okay?
Okay.
Do not go down that rabbit hole. Understand?
Got it.
You did
Okay.
not sign the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Patty, I have a
No problem.
question.
I'm just trying to do the right thing, but sometimes the best thing is to back up. Go ahead, Julia.
In regard to like a cosigner requirements. So
Uh-huh.
if your criteria says, you know, this amount of income, this credit score, no evictions, and no bankruptcy, judgments, etc., and this person who's applying has a judgment, but comes in with, you know, their parent who has perfect credit, perfect income, qualifies, you know, on their own, do you still allow, because I mean, you could see that as, and this is what I did, I accepted them because their, you know, parent had everything.
It's a business decision.
Okay. But I just,
So yes, you picked them because you felt that the cosigner was most, or I'm sorry, guarantor was most qualified.
guarantor, the most qualified. Okay. Do you have to distinguish that on your criteria of, I
You
don't
want
know,
to know
how
the
do you say?
difference between a guarantor and a cosigner?
I know we went over this and I can't, oh, one gets to live there, one doesn't.
Correct. A cosigner can live on the property, a guarantor cannot.
So which one do you like better, or which one do you use?
Guarantor, guarantor.
Why? I
Guarantor
would
has
think
no
cosigner.
right to live there. Oh, and I can't say what he's saying right now, but he can. You guys all know Chris is an attorney, maybe not your attorney, but he's an attorney. And he's telling you use the word guarantor, not cosigner. You're in a better position.
Okay, got it. So then,
I've seen a tenant move out and a cosigner turn around and move right back in so they could stay there at the cheap rent controlled rate.
And they also need to live in California.
Yes, a guarantor, you want them to stay in the state. For collection purposes, landlord-tenant law doesn't cross state lines.
okay.
Remember that, okay?
Yeah, well,
So when your tenant
violating
leaves
that
the
rule
state,
pretty bad.
stop chasing. Chris, be nice. I hear you laughing.
No, I'm laughing at myself because when you have extenuating circumstances,
Hey, sometimes we take risks. That's all.
So
All right.
Patty, then, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
But it's a business decision on whether you decide to accept them or not. I just didn't know for the guarantor. Now I'm going to say guarantor. Do you, I know if they don't income qualify, that's why you, that's the whole purpose of a guarantor is to use their income. But does the other apply, you know, in terms of judgments, evictions and all of that? Do you still allow that person?
believe my sample criteria reads as such. A guarantor must meet all of the above criteria with the following changes. FICO score must be 750 or higher, and rental income must be 7 times the amount of the monthly rent, not 3, 7.
But
Hey,
that
do you-
person that
They
they're,
gotta be able to support both households.
hey, I have a question. Do you think
Yes.
it's unreasonable, particularly if they're not coming in to see you, to have the guarantor execute the thing and notarize it so that you know you're actually dealing with?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, we always had people notarize if they couldn't be there physically, and so that way they can check their ID. But so that person that they're guaranteeing, I guess, if that person has, let's say, an eviction, that is my judgment call to make? Or do you just say like no, because it's no evictions? Or since they have a guarantor that's meets all the criteria, do you allow someone that they're guaranteeing with an eviction?
Your decision.
Mm,
All
okay.
I can say is once, and you guys heed my warning, once you make that decision, stick with that decision throughout your career, or it could be discriminatory. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
And let me explain what I'm trying to say to everybody else. Let's say you have a minimum FICO score of 600. And these people apply and you really like them and you only have your little house. It's just you and your one rent, okay? So you go ahead and you rent to them, even though they have a 550 FICO score and you require 600. And they're great tenants, they live there a long time, they move out, the next people come to apply, and same scenario, only their FICO score isn't as low as the last person you rented to. It's a little bit higher, but not what you require. And you don't like them as much, so you deny them. Did you just discriminate? Absolutely. If you do it for one, you have to do it for all in the eyes of fair housing, okay? So be cautious with that. Once you lower your criteria, if you're a little mom and pop, you just lowered it across the board for that property. Okay? It's a different way to look at things, but with this being Fair Housing Month, we really need to absorb how fair housing looks at things. Also-
Even Patty, even if you denied it and did that special thing that you changed it for them.
Different set of facts. So you can do a denial, and then you can conditionally approve them on other conditions, whatever those conditions may be, conditionally approved, okay? Yeah, you did miss something, Chris. You're lost. Okay, and I gotta look for Val's oven question. Hang on. This happened to me yesterday. A couple moved in Monday, signed everything okay. Tuesday, they must have been boiling a huge pot of water for spaghetti, hopefully not a rabbit. And they melted the top side of the oven. Now they want a new one. Theirs was old, but not melted. Hold on. Whose oven was it when they moved in, Val? And I'm sorry I missed you. It's your oven? Replace the oven and charge them, or repair it and charge them. That's tenant caused damage, and your contract specifically covers you. It melted the paint on the oven? Yeah, replace the oven and have them put up a new one. I mean, replace it and bill it to them? That's what I'm trying to say. Again, it was a pretty old oven. It doesn't matter, Val. Let me say it a different way. You know, the tenant burned the house down, and my insurance company doesn't want to spend the money to build a brand new one. It was a pretty old oven. It was a pretty old house. Come on. Doesn't take for the fact that it's gone now. Make sense? It's broken. It needs to be repaired. And a pot of water for spaghetti isn't going to cause the paint to melt off the front. That sounds like a grease fire to me. Just saying. But, you know, what do we know, right? You ever put a big tamale pot on the stove? You know, things happen. I got a feeling I'm about to get invaded, so nobody panic if all of a sudden people are talking all around me. I really am in an office. Say meth lab. They provided a photo of the pot. Yeah, I understand, but who's to say that that pot wasn't full of grease? Oh, it was resting against the top side of the oven. Well, then it was improperly used and the tenant's at fault. And they're responsible for all of the smoke damage, the stove oven, everything. Does that make sense? I hope I got you. And does anybody else have anything? Otherwise, I'm gonna get off of here.
Wait, is it just cosmetic damage or it actually is affecting the mechanical function of the stove?
Well, Val's being Val, and she says, now I'll go check for Val. As a Euclid. Okay, all of my business professionals, stop being so humorous. Probably cosmetic, but not sure. Go check it out. But if they blistered the paint and busted up an old oven, I guess you're getting a new one, huh? Because it wasn't like that when you rented to them. Exactly. If the paint's bubbled up, then have someone go out and see what it's gonna cost to fix it at the tenant's expense. And also check for smoke damage in the property.
But
And as far
can
as
I-
that meth thing, check the air filter in the heater, AC unit, and that thing above the stove oven while you're there. Might as well.
I mean, I
And
was
what-
joking. I was joking about that. I didn't really.
She knows you were joking about that, Chris. Trust me.
I mean, I hope it's a joke.
Dawn's
I
gonna
hope
be coming.
there's.
Let me know what time.
Val totally knows.
Oh,
And I
let me
hear
know.
you, Arlene. Do you need us?
2:30.
Arlene, we can hear you.
Sorry.
Hi, do you have a question? Nope,
I'll talk,
okay.
I'll talk
Wait.
to you offline, Patty.
So I have
Okay,
a
no
question.
problem.
I have a question related to that stove. For
Okay,
appliances, like, is the cosmetic nature of the stove part of habitability? I thought it was.
no, it's cosmetics are not habitability.
So, I mean, like the stove was there when you rented it, so they're entitled to a functioning stove, but if the stove is still functioning, are you really required to give them an aesthetically pleasing one?
No, but I'm gonna charge them to fix
Sure.
it when they vacate if they
Of
don't,
course,
because
no,
I give it.
of course, but I mean, if you have some tenant demanding something like that, it's
So I
like.
guess my question becomes, did you have a picture of the stove before this happened? Because if you have a picture of it before and now you have a picture of it after, you have enough evidence to have it fixed and charge them and deduct it from their security deposit. If you don't have a before photo, you don't have a now photo, you can't charge them for it later. Got it? I see that, Val. I know you did. All right, anybody else have anything? I'm gonna get off of here. Thank you, everybody. April, let's talk about putting a class together, okay? Because I think it would be great to take your brain and spread the knowledge. Thank you, everybody. It's been great to see you all. I'll see you next
Thank
week.
you,
If you need me, no problem. If you need me, you know how to hunt me down, okay? Bye, everybody.
Even from your car. That was so great. Thank you.
Bye.